For today's drawing exercise, we're going to need a piece of paper, we're going to need a ruler, and a pencil. I'm also going to provide you with a photo of a Lego block. And we're not going to copy this Lego block exactly, but we're going to use it as something to refer back to for parts of the Lego. So since my image reference that I'm taking inspiration from is obviously below my horizon line, since I'm seeing the top of the Lego and the two sides, I'm going to, on my paper, draw my horizon line higher up on my drawing paper. I'm going to put my left vanishing point as far over as I can and my right vanishing point. Looking at my image reference that I'm using for inspiration, I'm going to move my Lego slightly over to the left of center since this has such a steep angle to it. Now ours isn't going to look exactly like this. If we were to try to even find the vanishing point for this Lego, it's going to go way off the paper. So we're going to squeeze ours in on our drawing surface. So I need to draw a vertical line. Remember, that vertical line is going to represent this front corner of the Lego. And I want it down below my horizon line, and I want enough room down here, so I want quite a bit of space here because I need enough room to be able to draw the top of the Lego and get those little parts, the little cylinder parts on top of it. So I'm going to come pretty close to down here at the bottom of my paper. So remember, in two-point perspective, after you identify where your horizon line is, whether it's on the paper or off the paper, where your two vanishing points are, again, whether they're on the paper or off the paper, when you start your objects, you're starting them as a vertical line. I'm going to connect the top of my vertical line to the left vanishing point. Now remember, this is called an orthogonal, and I'm going to draw this light for now because I'm going to erase most of this line. I'm just not sure where at yet. I'm going to connect the top part of that vertical line to my right vanishing point. And again, I'm going to draw the orthogonal very lightly because I'm going to be erasing some of it. My next step is to connect the bottom of my vertical to the left vanishing point. And again, I'm going to make that orthogonal light. And I'm going to connect the bottom of that vertical to the right vanishing point also. And once again, I'm going to keep that orthogonal very light. So I now have some information that is starting to develop the left side of my Lego block and the right side of my Lego block. Now that I have this corner, the top of the and bottom of the right side, the top and bottom of the left side, I need to create the back of the Lego block here on the left side and the other side that is facing away from us on the right. So I'm going to, between these two orthogonals on the left side of my initial vertical line, I'm going to try to draw as best as I can a parallel line for however long I want this side of my Lego block to be. So I like to maybe do it twice, trying to carefully move it so that my ruler isn't tilting too much, and trying to keep that vertical. I'm going to draw that line between those two orthogonals. Going to do the same thing here on the right side. I'm going to line up my ruler to my original vertical line. Again, slide it over to about the distance I want that side of my Lego block to be, and draw a line between those two orthogonals. So we now have the left side of our Lego. We have the front that is towards the right, and now this line represents the corner where the right side of the Lego will appear, and this represents the corner where the back part of the Lego will appear. To get the top of my Lego, I need to now connect these vertical lines to both vanishing points. So if we look, this one is already connected over here. So I have to connect it to the left vanishing point. And again, I'm going to draw these lines light. And then I need to connect the left one to the vanishing point, and it's already connected to the left vanishing point, so it only needs to connect to the right. And again, I'm going to draw my lines light. So again, we're not exactly as our photo reference, but we are using it to have a reference to the parts we need. So I have my main block body. I have this front corner. I have the front side that's moving off to the right. I have the left side of the block moving off to the left. I now have a vertical line to represent the back of my block. And I have that vertical line connected to my vanishing point on the right. I have the vertical line to stop the front of the box here and start the right side of my block, and I have it connected back to my vanishing point on the left. Where those cross over, that is where our back corner would be in the actual three-dimensional block. So now I need to work on the cylinders at the top of my Lego block. I can't just randomly place the cylinders on top of the Lego block. I need to plan them out, because if you look very closely, they are evenly spaced from the edges of my Lego block. So I'm going to draw some other lines here. Now, since I am below the horizon line, that's why I didn't bother to connect the bottom of my verticals here on the far left and far right, because this is going to be a solid block, so I can't see these bottom edges of my block. Just like when I look at the Lego block, I can't see this corner back here and this corner going back this way. I'm going to just judge how much of a border I want around the top of my Lego block. And what I mean by border is this little lip that goes from this corner to the cylinder all the way around the Lego block. So we first had to look at the part of the cylinder that attaches to the Lego itself. The top part that sticks up off the surface will be the last part we work with. So if I want my Lego block to have a border of the cylinders being this far from that front edge, I'm going to make a small mark along this orthogonal, because what I had to do is connect this to the right vanishing point to get this information right here, where those cylinders touch the Lego block. So I'm going to connect that little dot I made back to my vanishing point. And again, I'm going to draw that line light. To get this distance between this line of the Lego block and the bottom of the cylinder, I again need to make a line. And notice when I trace past these parts of the cylinder, it's touching this front top corner. So that's where I need to make a mark, and just like I did here, I'm going to connect that mark back to the vanishing point. My next step is to get the other outer borders. Now I don't want them the same distance. Remember, this is getting further away from us and this is getting further away from us. So it's going to be slightly less distance, not by much, but a little bit less. So I'm going to bring this a little bit closer to my corner, and this is going to give me the beginnings of where this touches on that side. So again, I'm going to connect it to my vanishing point on the left side, get my border here, and then the same thing back here. A little bit less than what this distance was. Going to put a dot here. This is going to now be the border around the back part of the block on the other side of those cylinders. And I'm going to connect that to the right vanishing point. So now that I have that, I need to divide this up into some sections. So there is a border between these blocks. So if I kind of just eyeball along this line where my halfway point is, I need a little bit of space to the left and right of it as this little flat space in between these two sets of cylinders. You have this set and you have this set. So I'm going to again just carefully judge how much I want that distance to be. So I kind of identify my center point, move a little bit to the left, a little bit to the right, and now this is going to connect back to the left vanishing point so I can get that open space moving away from us. I now want this open space between this row of cylinders and this row. So again, I'm going to kind of eyeball where the center part is. I want a little bit towards my left vanishing point and a little bit towards my right vanishing point. And once I determine where I want that valley between the rows of cylinders, I'm going to connect that back to my right vanishing point. And this now gives me my opening between all four sets of cylinders. So this bottom square and these four sections are going to be where I build my four cylinders. In two-point perspective, when we're working with something like a cylinder, we first start it as a box, and then we trim away from the box. So I'm going to do a little bit of erasing here to just make it a little bit less lines we have to keep track of. So I'm taking away a little bit of this and this line on my borders. I'm going to take away the valleys, those lines, so that I'm just left with those little square areas in perspective at the top of my Lego block. So now that I have these squares that represent where the cylinders of the Lego block touch the Lego block itself, I'm now going to build a box around them for the height. So from these corners, I'm going to create some small verticals that represent how tall I want my cylinders to be. So when I lined up for these verticals, I'm going to try to keep the distance parallel to the other verticals I have already on my box. And I'm not drawing down towards my box, I want to draw up from it. Now, to make this even, I'm going to first do it just on these front corners of this box. And I'm going to use a little bit of a smaller ruler here. I'm going to use one off my compass so that I can see how tall I am making these blocks. And this will be a little bit tricky because maybe I can do it with this. Alright, I'm putting my 12.5-inch line here on my ruler on that corner, and I'm going to make it just about 1/4 of an inch tall. So I'm going to go from the 12.5 mark up to the 12 3/4 mark. I'm going to do that on all 4 corners here on the front. So again, I'm drawing up away from the block, the original block, so that I can show that these are sticking up from that surface. So I want to draw them up. And again, I'm trying to keep it parallel to my vertical lines that are already in existence. So these little lines that look like they're coming up out of the box are representing the height of my cylinder here. These will also help me get the height of my other vertical lines to complete this box in 3D. So I'm going to connect each of these to my left vanishing point since they're on the right side. And I'm going to do this lightly. And now each of these orthogonals going back here is between it and my other corners is where I'm going to draw my other vertical lines. And this will give me the height for my cylinder pieces. It will also give me the height back here because these will then keep it in perspective. It'll keep it visually equal for what we should see when these sides go away from us. And one more set here at the back. Okay. So this has given me the height of my boxes, and now I want to complete this flat top. So I need to have all of these tops connect to this right vanishing point also. Then that will cause me to adjust some of the heights here of my other tops possibly. So my next step is I'm going to reduce some information here. So since this is a solid box, what I need is mainly this, to concentrate on this top rectangle right now. So anything inside of here, I'm going to erase. I need to concentrate on this top rectangle piece. So I'm going to erase anything inside of it. And I need to concentrate on this top rectangular piece. So I'm going to erase anything inside of it. And again, I don't want to darken these too much because I'm not keeping these rectangles. They're going to become cylinders. But if I darken it enough for you to see what I'm looking for, I want to keep these top flat parts of these little boxes I just drew on top of my Lego. And I can start erasing other things outside of my box. So over here, this is what I'm concentrating on. It's this flat top. And erasing anything inside of it. What I need to do then is to get my cylinder shape correct. Along this line, I'm going to mark the halfway point. Along this line, the halfway point. And again, I'm just eyeballing it along this line, about the halfway point, and along this line about the halfway point. And then I'm going to draw curves connecting those points together, and this should give me my cylinder top for my Lego piece. Once I kind of sketch it out, I'm going to slightly darken it. So I'm going to do that for each piece of my Lego. So I want my top of my cylinder to fit within that flattened down perspective square. So something like that. one is not touching the line. Let's get that sketched out a little bit better there. So once I have that top of my cylinder sketched out using the box, that's this part here, I'm then going to create a thickness for it. So I'm going to sketch it, and I'm going to create that thickness so it's vertical and parallel to the verticals I already have on my sketch. And I'm going to let it drop down, and then I'll trim it up here. So just as this curved line cuts off on this corner, this curved line is going to cut this corner, and just as it cuts off this corner down here in the block, it's going to cut off this corner, and that's going to give me my cylinder shape. So again, I'm trying to copy the curve I'm seeing here and the curve I'm seeing over to here down below. And that's going to give me a fairly decent cylinder on top of my Lego. So now I can start darkening what I need to keep. So this is just an exercise in sketching these out. Wherever this top line touches my cylinder, I'm going to stop and not draw through the cylinder. And the same thing going back in this direction. So there's the top of my Lego. My verticals I already have fairly dark, so I'm going to now darken up the bottom of my Lego box. And I'm going to darken up my cylinders. And create the round bottoms. Now that I've darkened those in, I want to adjust that curve a little bit more. Then I'm going to carefully erase my lighter lines. And I want to double check that I'm not going to see that back corner. Nope. So that will all disappear. Darken up over here around the cylinder so that my back line of the Lego block is clear. And of course I can erase any extra parts of my orthogonals. At least shrink them away from the Lego block itself. So again, not exactly the same here as our image, but I was just using it as a reference to learn how to place these pieces together using two-point perspective. So I do have the little valley in between my cylinders. I have my 4 cylinders for the top of my Lego block. I have my sides of the Lego block, which are the parts that we are interested in drawing. So this is your drawing exercise for today. Using the blue Lego block image I give you and these instructions, I want you to draw your own Lego block on this piece of drawing paper provided to you, just so you have some practice in creating Lego blocks into the two-point perspective drawing.